Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and are you ready to get Hulkbuster? Because today we're going to be talking all about him. We're going to be talking about the Monsterverse machine event. We're going to be talking about everything that you need to do to get what I believe is to be a 3 or 4 star free-to-play. And there's some information that we need to fill the gaps with, but I'm pretty confident about this. And we're also going to be covering basically where you should be at with regards to the Techno Future milestone. With all the points accumulated thus far, or available, or soon to be available anyways, we'll know, like, basically free to play what is left. You know, how much more do we need to go in order to get to that 50k. So if you're ready to go, then let's boil this down. And so, of course, before we get started with the Hulkbuster math, I just want to go over this very quickly. This is the Techno Future August-long event, obviously. And so we have all the information with regards to all of the 4 items now. Hopefully that you guys made your way through the Adamantium Arm for the Visions of Tomorrow event. If you didn't, unfortunately, that's going to be a big hit to your total because it is worth 10,000. Now, the AI Matrix, which is part of the Hulkbuster event, is only worth 6,000, so significantly less than the 10. Now, if you add up everything so far, and by the way, we've had one-core offers like every 2 days on the dot. August 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. Probably have one today, August the 20th, and hopefully we'll have a couple more. But what's interesting about them is that they've been giving a lot more than what they did previously. So these were worth 520, which is a lot. So if you were to count up everything so far, I do want to say that the Ride of the Valkyrie had, in my opinion, a not free-to-play 186 circuits. It is listed in here, however, I believe that was really hard to obtain, so as far as the total goes, but it does include that. So the subtotal is 48,782, and what that means is if you completed everything, and you complete the Monsterverse machine and get the Matrix, which is not out yet, but if you do all that, do the quick rumble for next week, then you're going to be at 40. You're going to be at this point here, which means that you're about 1,200 points away from the final milestone, which suggests that if they give us at least, 3 more one-core offers, which they should do, because there's, quite a few days left over, then that will get you the end of the 50k. That's if you've completed everything. So if you haven't, then there's a bit of problem there, and, hopefully you can get as far as you can anyways, but I just wanted to share this with you very quickly. Now, before we jump over to the Hulkbuster, I want to bring up the blog really quick because there is a 7-day login calendar. You guys may have seen this if you read the blog or you watched my video, but I just want to remind you that this is the case, and this is going to be included in my math as well. So you get 1 heavy armor orb on day 1, on day 3, and on day 5. So that's 3 orbs or 6,000 fragments total, and that's going to help towards that total there as well. So let's jump on over to the milestones. So we're going to be flipping a little bit back to some of the actual images because I want to kind of explain this a little bit better. We're going to zoom in a little bit as well. So we're going to start with the Armored Architect milestone up here. And so this is the 7-day solo power core spending milestone. Now, it requires a total of 10,000 power cores to clear this. This is obviously not, it's not reasonable for free-to-play players. You can see it down here that it's going to be 1,430 cores daily. For 7 days if you want to do this, which is a hell of a lot of power cores, and I don't know if I personally recommend doing this, and I don't think that you really need to personally. But what I think that is a bit more reasonable is some of these other ones, especially the 330 cores daily. This is 2,300 cores over the course of the event, and this will give you 7,500 heavy armor heavy armor orb fragments, so almost 4 heavy armor orbs. If you want to spend a little bit more, there's like scenario 2 here. This is 643 cores daily. It's a lot. This is 4,500 cores total, which will get you to milestone 17, and this will give you double the amount to 15,000 armor fragments. But for the purposes of this milestone and my calculations, I've kind of assumed that people can get this. Now, this might be a bit over suggesting. My words are failing me. So if you aren't able to spend 330 cores daily, just do a little bit more blitzing, I guess, and then you'll be able to make up for that. So just to share with you guys that this is this image here, and you can see that there is quite a few heavy armor fragments like later down the line. Oh wait, no, that's not it. That's mechanized. That's the... No, that is it. Wait, hold on. No, that's the energy. They changed this, by the way. It was wrong. Okay, so we'll get to that later. We're going to get to that later. This is it here. This is the 10,000 power cores. Looks like they did update the energy. Like I said they fucked it up in the blog, and they absolutely did. So we're gonna have to change things around a little bit on the fly. But this is 10,000 power cores. You can see here you do get a lot of orbs, like further down, a lot of fragments. But frankly, it's just so many cores that this is definitely a whale milestone. You can see that you get Elite 6 credits and some Dark Promo credits and some other decent stuff in here, but just the sheer amount of cores they're asking you to spend. I think what's reasonable is this milestone 13, which is 2,300 total, and I think that, you know, there's some reasonable stuff in here. You get some Blitz charges as well, which will help you through, because this is a Blitz milestone, basically. So let's jump on over back to talk about the Mechanized Might Web milestone. Before we do this, though, I want to talk about this table here. So I've added this in, and I'm going to start adding this into most of my events that require power cores. And this just gives people a heads up about what your daily power cores are going to be. So you get 50 from the High Roller. That's if you spend 1 million gold. You get 25 from the Energy milestone. Now, that's a 2-day milestone, but you get basically 25 per day. It's 50 total, and then for a reasonable amount of energy spending, I've calculated for that. And then you get 50 from daily objectives, which gives you about 125, just kind of bare bones if you do these things. And then, of course, on top is Arena. So if you add Arena, which can give you anywhere from like 50 to 300, you know, unless you're in the top 10 or top 5, you know, you're probably getting somewhere around that. Then that leaves you with about 175 to 425 cores. Huge arena range here, but you know, that's what it's like on a daily basis. So in terms of how many power cores you're spending, like I said, that 330 cores above, you're gonna have to have like some degree of hoard, you know, prior to this event in order to make it work. But let's talk about this Mechanized Might Web milestone. This is the energy spending milestone. Now, before I said 3,500, because the final milestone previously, if you look at my blog video, was 350. And I was like, there's no way this is right, because it's not only campaign energy, but ISO 8 energy as well. And so the total amount of heavy armor fragments that is available in this is 4,000 or 2 orbs daily. It is a daily, which means that times by 7, that it's actually 14 orbs available in the milestone over 7 days. Now, ignore this for just now, because we need to jump back, and I should have looked at this beforehand, and my apologies. So, it's 3,000 energy spent. Not 3,500 like I thought, but it's going to be about 3,000. So that's still quite a bit. And where I think that's reasonable for people to get to is about, realistically, probably about 1,000 energy each. Which will give you about 2,000. So I would actually say like milestone 16 is probably where most players are going to be able to get to. But there is no heavy armor orb fragments there. It's actually at 1,300. So if you want to maximize your energy and just, you know, not overspend, I would actually aim for this 1,300 here. The 2,200 you might be able to get to, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that as far as my calculations go. So I'm going to assume you're going to get 500 from this, 500 here, 250, and that's about it, which is, I believe, what I had here under free-to-play, which is what I had. So 1,250 free-to-play without spending too much on the energy, and then if you multiply this by 7, you get 8,750, which is about 4 and some change orbs. Now, if you're lucky and you're able to go all the way and get these extra 2,750 orb fragments at 2,200 and 3,000 energy spent, and you're able to maintain that over every single day, you know, kudos to you. And that'll get you an extra, like, basically 20,000 fragments towards the Monsterverse machine milestone. But I don't think that you can keep up with this. I don't think most players can keep up with this, so I haven't added that into my calculations, but know that you will do better if that's something that you can do. So just wanted to put that out there. Let's talk about that Monsterverse machine milestone, because this is the main one, right? This is the 7-day Blitz milestone, and so the total milestone points required for this is 193,000. You're not going to get anywhere near there, but you could do reasonable. We'll talk about this. So the Matrix milestone, which is the item, you're going to get this at 52,600, which this percentage is just like, basically it's 27% through the entire milestone. It's just kind of an interesting piece of information because of how much extra points are out there, you know, for the whales. There's a total of 1,116 relay circuits of the currency. To get to the maximum circuit milestone is 61,400, a little bit above the Matrix. That's almost 32% through the milestone, and this is pretty reasonable to get to. We'll talk about this. One thing that we don't know, though, is we don't know what the orb contains. We don't know. It's probably not going to be here until the event goes live on Sunday at Store Reset. So I am making a few assumptions here based on my previous knowledge of events, based on what I remember from Agatha as well. I'm making a couple of assumptions. As far as of recording, it's not in there. So we'll talk about that as we get through this though. So you're going to want to blitz as much as you possibly can because you're going to get drops for blitz wins, sheer blitz wins. It doesn't matter if it's tier 1 or if it's tier 8. You know, the better thing to do is actually probably to maybe blitz all the way through and then use like 5 teams to tier down if you're not comfortable with, you know, winning battles at tier 8. That's probably the easiest thing to do for you. I think there's a total of 42 teams now, maybe, but I do my math in relation to 35 blitz wins. So you're going to be getting like various drops, like 50, 100, 150, 250, 500, 1000, and you can get as much as 2000. But that's extremely rare, and actually most drops is about 50. So I've put the average orb fragments per blitz at 60, just because you might get a little bit more. This is not like mathematically proven or anything like that, but the majority of the drops are 50 and there's a little bit extra. So that's just what I've done. So that means if you multiply this by 35, you get 2100 points, or sorry, fragments. So that's basically an orb per rotation. So just let's put it that way. And if you do 4 rotations, you're getting about 8400 fragments, just over 4 orbs. And of course, over 8 rotations a day, you're getting just over 8. Almost 8.5 orbs actually over that. You could get a bit more, or, you know, probably not less, but you could probably get a little bit more if your RNG is good and you get some good drops. Now, if you do the 4 rotations, I've done 2 scenarios here. One, if you're doing 4 rotations over 7 days, and the one is the super hardcore one if you're doing 8 rotations over every single day. Now, if you do the 4 rotations, you're going to get almost 60,000 points, 58,800, which is actually the matrix. You know, without adding any of the other stuff, that's the matrix right there. So that's total orbs over 4 rotations. That's almost 29.5 basically for that. And then if you do 8 rotations, the maximum over 7 days, you're getting almost 120,000 points, which is pretty good. That's without adding the other stuff. If you see that the max milestone is 193,000, but I still think that that's very hard to achieve even with all the other additions. And that's almost 59 orbs over that. Now, we're making an assumption here that the orb is going to have a guaranteed 3 shards. And we're going to talk about why I think that is. Because in this entire thing, in this entire Monsterverse machine milestone, there's only 30 Hulkbuster shards at almost at the very end here at 158,000 points. I think that's very unreasonable for the majority of players, and even for the most hardcore ardent blitzers, I think you're going to have a hard time getting these 30 Hulkbuster shards. So there is actually no other Hulkbuster shards, which they didn't seem to fix this. I should have looked that back over again. There is no additional Hulkbuster shards anywhere else in this chart. So that makes me think that they're going to be guaranteed shards in the orb. When the Agatha event came live, there was 55 guaranteed shards for Agatha in the milestone, and then the orbs were not guaranteed for Agatha. But I believe they were 3, 5, and 8 shard drops. 3 was more easier to get, and the 5 and the 8 was a lot rarer. So what I'm thinking is that it's going to be a 3 shard guaranteed orb, with a chance of maybe 5 or 8, you know, a very slim chance, less than 5% per orb probably, to get some of that. So I've done my calculations with that assumption that you're going to get 3 shards per orb. If that's wrong, if it's wildly out, you know, wrong, if I'm wildly wrong, I will do an update video to this, but that's what I think is probably going to happen because there's no other shards elsewhere in the milestone. That's just what I believe it is. It could be a little bit more. I think 2 shards would be too low though, because that wouldn't get very many shards at all, and I think 5 would be too high. Okay, so you may have noticed a little bit of a blooper, probably because I just pointed it out. My numbers were actually wrong on here because I moved my spreadsheet, I moved my table around a little bit before I did this video. So I have corrected this is right here, but the numbers in these 3 columns were a little bit off. Also, I forgot to mention that you do get 6,000, well, I did say in the beginning, but you get 3 orbs via the login calendar. That's why this is mentioned here. But basically at the end, so the grand total fragments at 4 rotations daily and the above 330 cores daily and the energy spending will give you about 81,000 points towards the milestone, which is well above the matrix and well above the final score that you need for the max circuits as well. This is about 40.5 orbs. And yeah, so I think that it is going to be at least a guaranteed 3 shards. I think 2 is too low, and I think 5 is too high. And so if you take these kind of orbs and you multiply it by 3, then you're going to get 122 shards. So this is basically the goal that you're going to want to get to, more or less, for a 3-star Hulkbuster. Now, like I said, you know, if there's something wildly wrong, if the orbs are really shitty, I will do an update to this, but this is personally based on my own experience of events of what I think is probably going to happen. Is I think it's probably going to be pretty low. I would be very surprised if it's 5 shards guaranteed, because if you look at the total amount of orbs and you multiply this by 5, I just think the numbers are too high that they want to give out for Hulkbuster. I did a scenario here for 6 rotations daily, and the above calculations, add it all up together, and you get about 110,000 fragments. That's about 55 orbs, and so if you multiply that by 3, you get 165. And so that's almost a 4-star, but not quite, right? And so if you really want to get to that 4-star, then you're going to have to do probably like 7 or 8 rotations a day, plus the above core spending, plus the energy spending, and that'll get you about 140,000 points, or 70 orbs. Multiply that by 3, and you get 210. Ignore that number there. So 210 shards, which is above a 4-star, which is pretty good. Honestly, I don't know if you can do much better than this. You would have to bump up your cores. You would have to bump up your energy spending in order to get a little bit more of the orb fragments. But as far as blitzing goes, this is almost the sheer maximum unless you get some really good luck over the course of the event. You know, if you get maybe a full orb drop and you get lucky. But as far as, it is possible, right? Because when I did the Agatha event, I'm pretty sure I got like about 100 and... I did like 7 blitz rotations. I think I got like a 4-star Agatha. I think I might have. But it was a very difficult event, a very challenging, lots of blitzing, and that's exactly what this Hulkbuster event is going to be. So be under no illusion that you're going to be blitzing hardcore if you want to get shards for Hulkbuster. And honestly, I don't blame anyone if they just want to skip out on the heavy blitzing, get the item, and then, I don't know, buy an offer. Because honestly, it's a crazy amount of blitzing that I know not everyone is going to be able to get up for. And I know that, you know, I don't encourage spending, but man, I hate these events that are just this harsh on blitzing. But it's a good news that in order to get the Matrix, it's not super high up there. 52,600. I think it's pretty reasonable, all things considered. You know, you could probably get away with, I want to say 2 or 3 blitz rotations a day, and you could probably still get the Matrix. I know that this was with 4. I didn't do one with 2, so my apologies. But if you're doing 4 rotations daily, you'll have more than enough points that you need in order to get to that Matrix and also finish off the max amount of relay circuits for this event. So I hope that this was helpful. Like I said, if the orb sucks and is wildly different than what I think it might be, which is 3 shards guaranteed with a chance of 5 or 8. That's just a guess on my part based on some educated guessing from previous events. Then I will do an update video on Sunday at Store Reset and addressing the differences if there is. But otherwise, I hope that's exactly right. I hope that that's what we get. And I hope for the best, honestly, guys, that, you know, it's not going to be too crazy, that, you know, you're not going to want to kill yourself after 7 days, because it's just honestly a crazy amount of screen time. And these are probably one of the events that I hate the most. But let me know how you feel in the comments down below. What are you going to go for? What kind of scenario blitzing do you think is good for you, or that you're going to aim for? You're going to get a 3-star? You try to push for a 4-star? Either way, I think it'll be possible as long as you put in the time, basically. So that's the end of this video. And of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.